Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. In today's special episode, we sat down with Casey Fleming, CEO of business warfare and counterintelligence company BlackOps Partners. He sheds light on a new report by the Institute for Security and Technology called REWIRED: How Digital Technology Shape Cognition and Democracy. How is this happening? Who's behind it? And what can be done? Here's more. Casey, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start with this new report out by the Institute for Security and Technology called REWIRED: How Digital Technology Shape Cognition and Democracy. So what does this mean about rewiring?
Rewiring is actually rewiring the brain. And it's called psychological warfare. Cognitive warfare is the new term, and it all falls underneath hybrid warfare. And that's really to control the minds and the souls of the audience or the population. So it's basically rewiring the brain. And it's accelerated and exacerbated by social media.
And how exactly is this rewiring done? You mentioned briefly social media, but what are some examples?
There's subliminal things inside. Well, number one, there's subliminal things like propaganda, where, for example, the Chinese Communist Party would say, they're doing a great job with the world economy, they're doing a great job with COVID, and so on and so forth. And then they'd say that the U.S. is not. The U.S. is a bad country. They're in decline. China's on the rise. That type of propaganda is there. You also see it through election interference. We're seeing a lot of upticking in election interference now, and so on. So number one, the first side is propaganda and changing the narrative. And then secondly, as far as rewiring the brain, it's all done through neurotransmitters, it's done through dopamine, it's done through all that type of stuff. So where you're reprogramming the brain, just like you see chickens being reprogrammed in the lab, mice being reprogrammed for the center of their brain centers of dopamine and dopamine hits inside of the brain. So that's what's really happening with social media. Our companies, our U.S. big tech, are doing it all day, every day. They'll give you several dopamine hits for likes and so on and so forth, and then they'll reset it by giving you several dislikes or that type of thing. So it keeps you addicted to the app, and that's just the beginning. There's just so much that can be done with the brain and with psychology when you're talking about technology.
And so, Casey, with these U.S. companies doing this, what exactly is the goal? What are they trying to achieve?
U.S. companies want you addicted to the app, to keep you on the app as long as possible and keep you off of anybody else's apps, anybody else's competition apps. So that's what they want to do, and keep you on those apps for advertising, also tracking you, whatever else you may be searching for, tracking your whereabouts, tracking your eye movements, tracking your facial recognition and recording that, your retina and all that. The other issue, so that's big media and big tech. And in my opinion, we need laws to regulate that, because people's privacy is their privacy, and it should not be for sale, ever. And if you want to make it for sale, then every year you should have to log in on that app in January and say, yes, you can have all my stuff for the next year. And then every year you have to opt in. That's my advice on that piece of it. But where it gets real, that's really very detrimental to Americans and people in the free world, because their privacy and their data and all of their actions that they do on their phone are being tracked, and it's being sold to other companies for marketing and other nation-state countries, and namely the Chinese Communist Party, that are at war with the United States, and they have been for many years. And that's all coming out very, very true today. But the issue is when those that's U.S. apps. Think about CCP, or Chinese Communist Party apps like TikTok. Clearly, that app is in the wrong hands, and I've made the comment before that TikTok is a weaponized espionage military app in the hands of our children.
And so what would some of these regulations look like? Or actually, would it be turning more to small businesses? How exactly would that play out?
Honestly, we need Americans to realize that they're Americans, and whether they're left, right, or center, that they're Americans and they need to vote for people in office that are going to fix this. That's how we work. That's how we operate. We're a democracy, and the way we change is through voting. We need those people in state, federal, local government that are going to address this thing. It's called foreign influence, under the umbrella of foreign influence. Also, the big data piece of it is not necessarily foreign influence, although the data that they collect is being sold to nation states for foreign influence. Big tech needs to have laws. Big tech says, no, we'll regulate ourselves, we can do a better job. Well, they certainly haven't. And again, we as Americans cannot, should not allow that our data be collected and our privacy be violated for other companies to exploit that and to make money and keep us addicted on their platform. So the way that it would look, again, is voting people into office that are going to fix that and uphold human rights and individual rights on privacy. But then also this opt-in thing. Every app that's tracking you, you must log in once a year. That app has to say, you have to opt in for another year or opt out. If you opt out, you still can use their app, or you may not want to use their app. So the point is, we have to come down to our privacy was never for sale. Nobody ever explained it to us as Americans. And when we started using these smartphones with these apps and with this technology, nobody ever told us the dangers of the technology, and it's tracking everything that we can possibly do, ourselves, our kids, everybody. And one other point, when you're coming home and your kid comes on the network and they've got a nefarious app on their phone or a regular app on their phone from big data, nefarious meaning TikTok, when they log into that network, they're giving TikTok and the Chinese Communist Party access to your network at home and access to your network in the coffee shop and so on. And so everything that you have going through that network on your phone and your computers is now susceptible, is actually being sent back to the Chinese Communist Party in massive data collection. And maybe the artificial intelligence isn't there today, but it certainly will be there in the next year or two to be able to sift through all the data that they've been collecting on every American company, and so on.
And Casey, it seems the argument is that when it comes to these big tech companies, they're private, so they don't fall under these government overreach rules. So given the case of TikTok, it also argues that it's not related to ByteDance, it's Chinese parent company and it's safe and all that. So how do you deal with this then?
You have to understand that it's not safe. That's the party line that you're getting from these companies, whether they're American companies or whether they're CCP companies. You don't believe what you're being told. I mean, you can't believe what you're being told. What I typically tell people is you must assume any technology from China is weaponized against you and the free world and your children's future. You have to understand the Chinese Communist Party and their direction, their ideologies, and they're nothing like we have in the free world. They're completely opposite.
On the weaponization part, earlier you mentioned the terms unrestricted hybrid warfare. How would you describe that?
Unrestricted hybrid warfare is the large umbrella at which everything is being operated on a global basis. Unrestricted means no rules, where the U.S. follows rules and we're described as a nation of rules. The Chinese Communist Party and China say that there are no rules. Those are your rules. We have our rules that we're putting forth to replace all of your rules. So that's unrestricted. Hybrid means achieving military objectives through non-military means, military and political objectives from non-military means. And warfare is just warfare. So what we have to understand is Americans, unrestricted hybrid warfare is focused on the citizens, on the general population. It's not really focused on the governments, and it's certainly not focused on the military. It's in play to weaken the adversary, in our case, to weaken the United States and the free world. It's also meant to weaken our will to fight and to weaken our strength as a nation and what holds us together. And if unrestricted hybrid warfare also pulls apart at everything that holds our society together, police, religion, Christianity, our democracy, voting left and right, our trust in our voting systems, family, parenting, all those type of things that are being basically pulled apart. So when you hear all these things in the media about critical race theory and BLM and defund the police and choose your gender and religion is bad and all these things, it's meant to pull us apart. I'm here to tell you that it's nowhere near as bad as it seems. Yes, we have issues. Every society does, but social media and the way that it is turned against us through technology. Remember the multiplier effect on technology. So you can do a lot of damage with a little bit of effort on social media. In fact, we've done studies, and there have been studies, that 85% of social media is weaponized disinformation and only 15% is fact. But the problem is Americans will believe that weaponized disinformation, that 85%, before they'll ever believe the fact, which is 15% of the content on social media. So that's when you're talking about psychological warfare and cognitive warfare, and those are underneath hybrid warfare. That's what we're talking about.
That was Casey Fleming, CEO of business warfare and counterintelligence company BlackOps Partners. And for those watching our full episode, after a break, we hear more from him on what role social media plays in this unrestricted warfare, why schools and companies in each state are still buying gear from Chinese companies dubbed a security risk, and the ways to counter this threat. Our full episode is available on our partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. See you soon.